Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
Imagine this. It's Friday night. You're finally unwinding. Maybe that perfect takeout pizza box is open, or you're diving into a rich, creamy milkshake. Pure, innocent indulgence, right?
Right.
But what if I told you that even just one single high-fat meal like that could have an immediate measurable effect on your brain? Today, we're taking a deep dive into some absolutely fascinating and honestly a little bit unsettling new research. This work suggests that a single high-fat meal can impair the very blood flow that nourishes your brain, potentially increasing your risk of serious conditions like stroke and dementia over time. We've pulled together insights from a recent health news article and the detailed scientific paper behind it to truly unpack these surprising findings for you. Our mission is to guide you through this cutting-edge research, understand its immediate implications for your daily life, and highlight why protecting your brain might just start with your very next meal. So let's dig in.
Yeah, it's a topic that really challenges our assumptions, doesn't it? We often focus on, long-term dietary habits.
The cumulative effect.
Exactly. But this research specifically spotlights the short-term impact, which is, a critical distinction.
And when we think about the brain, it's just this incredibly demanding organ.
Oh, absolutely.
It has very limited energy stores of its own, meaning it's constantly reliant on a steady, uninterrupted supply of blood.
Mm-hmm.
This blood isn't just delivering fuel, it's bringing the vital oxygen and glucose the brain needs to function, like every single second of every day.
Mm.
It's like a perpetually hungry, high-performance machine.
Precisely. And to protect this vital supply, our bodies employ this amazing system called dynamic cerebral autoregulation.
Okay, that sounds complex.
It is, but for simplicity, maybe think of it as the brain's internal shock absorbers.
Oh, okay.
It constantly works to keep blood flow stable, protecting the brain from everyday changes in blood pressure, like, when you stand up quickly or exert yourself during exercise. It's ensuring that despite those external changes, the brain's internal environment stays remarkably steady.
So it's essentially a sophisticated suspension system for our brain and making sure the ride stays smooth even when the road gets bumpy. That's actually a great analogy.
It's a critical protective mechanism, yeah. But here's the danger. If these shock absorbers aren't working as well as they should,
Right.
the brain struggles to manage those blood pressure swings. This can lead to brief episodes where either too little or sometimes too much blood reaches critical areas. And as you might guess, over time, consistently poor regulation significantly increases the risk of serious conditions like stroke and neurodegenerative diseases such as dementia.
It makes complete sense when you lay it out like that. This protective system is absolutely vital. But how on earth could something as simple as what we eat actually interfere with it? That's what the researchers set out to discover. And this is where it gets really compelling.
Yes, what's fascinating here is that scientists specifically wanted to understand, really for the first time, how a high-fat meal might immediately impact this crucial brain blood supply protection system. We've known for a while that high-fat meals affect heart health,
Sure.
but the immediate brain connection was, less clear.
Right. And to tackle this, they designed a very specific, almost confrontational experiment. They recruited two groups of healthy men, 20 young men aged 18 to 35, and then 21 healthy older men aged 60 to 80.
Right, so they could compare age groups.
Exactly. This allowed them to see if age made a difference in how the brain responded.
And then came what we're calling the brain bomb milkshake.
Slight chuckle. Brain bomb. I like that.
Well, it fits. This wasn't just any treat. It was specifically formulated to mimic the fat load of a typical fast food takeout meal.
Okay.
It consisted mostly of heavy whipping cream, along with chocolate syrup, sugar, and dry milk. In total, it packed a massive 1,362 calories.
Wow.
And a whopping 130 grams of fat.
130 grams. Just to put that into perspective, the NHS recommends men consume no more than, 30 grams of saturated fat a day.
Exactly. 30 for men, and women no more than 20 grams.
So this milkshake didn't just meet those limits, it absolutely obliterated them.
Obliterated is the word. It really puts things in perspective.
It really makes you think about that supersized combo meal or giant dessert we sometimes grab.
Yeah.
So after delivering this intense meal, how did they actually measure its immediate impact on the participants?
Well, the methodology was quite robust. They took a series of measurements before the men consumed the milkshake.
Okay, baseline.
Right, baseline. And then again, 4 hours after consumption. This 4-hour mark was chosen because it's typically when fat levels in the blood, specifically triglycerides, are at their peak after a meal.
Gotcha. So they were looking for those immediate peak changes. What exactly were they tracking in the body and brain?
So for heart health, they used a method called flow-mediated dilation. This essentially measures how well a blood vessel in the arm can open up and expand in response to increased blood flow. It's a pretty good indicator of overall blood vessel flexibility and health.
That makes sense.
Then for brain health, participants performed simple body weight squats.
Just squats.
Yeah, just simple squats. This creates natural, everyday changes in blood pressure. Researchers then used ultrasound technology to continuously monitor blood flow through the brain's vessels. And this directly assessed how effectively those brain shock absorbers, that dynamic cerebral autoregulation we mentioned, were working to maintain stable blood flow despite the pressure changes.
Okay.
They also took blood samples, of course, to track changes in fat levels, glucose, and insulin.
So a pretty comprehensive investigation into what was happening at a physiological level right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And the findings were immediate, revealing a connection we rarely consider.
Indeed, the results provided a very clear picture. The study first confirmed what previous research had shown. A single high-fat meal impaired the ability of blood vessels linked to heart health to open up effectively.
So the arm vessels.
Right, the peripheral vessels. And this effect was observed in both the younger and older participants.
Okay, so our peripheral blood vessels, the ones in our arms, definitely felt the impact. But what about the brain itself? Was that sophisticated shock absorber system affected?
Yes, and crucially, this impairment wasn't confined to just the rest of the body. It extended directly to the brain.
Wow.
The high-fat meal reduced the brain's ability to buffer those changes in blood pressure, meaning its internal shock absorbers were less effective.
Less effective just from one meal.
Just from one meal. And what's even more significant is that this effect was about 10% more pronounced in older adults.
10%.
About 10%, suggesting that older brains are inherently more vulnerable to the immediate impact of such a meal.
That's a really stark finding, that age plays such a direct role in how our brains respond to a single meal within just 4 hours. My mind immediately goes to, but why? Like, what's actually happening at a cellular level that causes this in such a short time?
Right, that's the key question. And while this specific study didn't directly test the long-term effects on cognitive functioning, previous research from the same team offers some critical insights into the underlying mechanisms.
Okay.
They've shown that high-fat meals tend to increase unstable, cell-damaging molecules, often referred to as free radicals.
Okay, the bad guys.
Pretty much. And at the same time, these meals can decrease the availability of nitric oxide.
Which is important.
Yes, it's a molecule vital for helping blood vessels relax and open up, to transport oxygen and glucose. So this imbalance, increasing damaging molecules and decreasing protective ones, likely explains the reduced blood flow regulation observed.
So it's a kind of double whammy. More bad stuff, less of the good stuff, directly affecting our blood vessels' ability to function properly. And this isn't just about the meal itself, but the hours afterwards. Right, you mentioned that peak at 4 hours.
Exactly. This study really highlights what's known as post-prandial lipemia. That's the period after eating when fat levels are elevated in the blood.
Post-prandial lipemia, got it.
And it can last for up to 8 hours.
8 hours?
Up to 8 hours. The research suggests this window, when fats are circulating at high levels, is a time when the body, and especially the brain, may be most at risk.
An 8-hour window is a significant chunk of our day. So, okay, let's connect the dots. What does this all mean for you, the listener, and the choices you make every day?
Well, this raises an important question for all of us, doesn't it? While an occasional indulgence, that Friday night pizza, might not cause irreversible harm on its own, these results strongly suggest that even one fatty meal has an immediate, measurable effect on your body. And when you consider repeated exposure over time, well, these immediate effects could certainly contribute to increased long-term risks of conditions like stroke and neurodegenerative diseases.
And it really brings us back to those dietary recommendations we hear so often, but maybe don't always connect to immediate effects.
Absolutely.
The milkshake contained a shocking 130 grams of fat, remember. Compare that again to the NHS recommendation. No more than 30 grams of saturated fat a day for men, or 20 grams for women.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us routinely exceed these limits, maybe without even realizing it, especially with weekend takeouts or those fast food splurges. This study kind of lays bare the immediate consequences of those choices.
It truly emphasizes the disconnect between what our bodies are perhaps designed to handle and what we sometimes consume. Furthermore, the age factor in this research has particularly important implications. Older adults, whose brains showed that 10% greater vulnerability,
Yeah, that stuck with me.
they're already at an increased risk for stroke and dementia. So this adds another layer of, well, urgency for them, perhaps, to make conscious dietary choices.
This definitely challenges how we think about diet. We often associate healthy eating with long-term benefits. Weight loss, heart disease prevention over years.
The slow burn.
Exactly. But this deep dive really shows that diet also impacts our body and brain in real time. It makes you wonder, when it comes to protecting brain health, maybe every meal counts.
Absolutely. That real-time impact is something we haven't always fully appreciated, I think. But, like any good scientific study, this research, while groundbreaking, also has its limitations,
Right.
which are just as important to acknowledge as the findings themselves.
That's a crucial point in science. What are some of those limitations, and what do they tell us about maybe the next steps for research?
Well, one of the most crucial limitations is the gender gap.
Ah, yes, it was only men.
Exactly. This study exclusively involved male participants. Now, the researchers made this choice to control for hormonal variables, as fluctuations in estrogen levels in females, for instance, can influence blood vessel function and cerebral blood flow.
Right, makes sense for control.
But it leaves a significant gap in our knowledge, especially given that women actually face a greater risk of stroke and dementia in later life compared to men.
That's a really important point.
So future research absolutely needs to investigate how the female brain responds to high-fat meals. It's critical.
That's a huge piece of the puzzle still to uncover. What other kinds of limitations did they identify?
Another important point is the type of fat used. This study focused specifically on saturated fat.
The kind in the milkshake, the cream.
Right, the kind found in things like butter, fatty meats, many processed foods. But what about other types of fats?
Like the good fat.
Well, the ones generally considered healthier in the long run, yeah. Polyunsaturated fats found in foods like oily fish, walnuts, seeds. Those are generally associated with better long-term heart and brain health. We don't yet know the immediate effects of a meal high in polyunsaturated fat on brain function, so that warrants further investigation, too.
So it's not just fat is fat. The type of fat might have different immediate effects. That makes sense. And what about the participants themselves? You said they were healthy, but were they representative of everyone?
That's an insightful question. The participants in this study, both young and old, were actually quite fit for their age groups.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, which could mean that the observed impairments in brain blood flow regulation were potentially underestimated.
You mean the effect could be worse in less fit people?
It's possible. The effects might be even more pronounced in individuals who are less active or more sedentary, as they may have, say, a lower baseline antioxidant defense against the stress induced by high-fat meals.
So if even fit people show an impact, less fit people might experience an even greater one. That's a significant consideration for, well, many people.
Exactly. And, while the methods used, like the squat stand maneuvers and ultrasound for assessing dynamic cerebral autoregulation, were robust and well-established, science is always refining its approaches. So acknowledging that using complementary techniques in future studies could further corroborate and deepen our understanding is just part of the scientific process.
Right.
What's fascinating here, I think, is that while this study provides critical new knowledge, it also clearly maps out the next frontiers for research, guiding us toward a more complete understanding.
That's the beauty of science, isn't it? Every answer seems to spark new questions. So to kind of recap everything we've talked about today,
Okay.
we've learned that a single high-fat, saturated meal can immediately impact your blood vessels and, crucially, the delicate regulation of blood flow to your brain.
A direct, measurable effect.
Right. This isn't just about your heart health down the line. It's directly linked to your brain's ability to stay protected and healthy in the short term, with older brains appearing particularly susceptible.
It's a powerful reminder, really, that our daily dietary choices have a much more immediate and profound impact than we often realize, influencing the very mechanisms that protect our most vital organ.
Absolutely. So the next time you reach for that high-fat meal, whether it's that takeout treat or an indulgent dessert, maybe just, consider the journey that food is about to take through your system and its immediate effects on your brain's delicate shock absorbers. How might this newfound knowledge empower you to make slightly different choices, knowing that even a single meal could be a vote for or against your future brain health? We invite you to ponder that and perhaps explore what dietary adjustments could support your cognitive vitality, maybe starting today.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.